I want you to picture the night before your wedding. The dress is hanging on the door. The flowers are already at the venue. Your entire family is in town. Everything is ready. And then you come home early, hoping for one quiet moment before your life changes forever. That was exactly where I was. And what I found in that bedroom destroyed everything in a single second. The man in that bed was Marcus, my fiancé of 4 years. The woman beside him was Priya, my best friend of 12 years. She was supposed to be standing next to me at the altar in less than 16 hours. But this story isn't just about cheating. It's about a lie that had been running for years before I ever discovered it. And when I finally uncovered the truth, I didn't just lose a fiancé and a best friend. I made sure everything came crashing down. My name is Jade. Back in 2019, I was 27 years old and finally felt like my life was coming together. I had just received a promotion at work. I had my own apartment. For the first time in years, I felt optimistic about the future. That summer, Priya invited me to a rooftop party downtown. At some point during the evening, she pulled me aside and pointed across the room. A tall man stood there laughing with a group of co-workers. She smiled and said, "That's Marcus. He's just some guy from work. I think you two would get along." Just some guy from work. Remember that sentence. Because years later, I would discover it was a lie. Marcus was charming. The kind of person who made everyone around him feel important. Our first date lasted 6 hours. Our second lasted even longer. Within a year, we were living together. Within 2 years, we were talking about marriage. And throughout all of it, Priya remained my closest friend. She celebrated every milestone. Or at least I thought she did. Looking back now, I can see things I ignored. Little moments. Tiny cracks. Whenever Marcus complimented me, Priya seemed uncomfortable. Whenever I talked about our future together, she changed the subject. At the time, none of it seemed important. Now I know better. 4 years later, Marcus proposed. It happened on an ordinary Tuesday morning. I said yes before he could even finish asking. The first person I called was Priya. She was strangely quiet. Not unhappy. Not excited. Just quiet. At the time, I thought she was emotional. Now I realize she was processing something else entirely. 2 weeks before the wedding, I found a receipt in Marcus's blazer pocket. I was taking it to the dry cleaner. The receipt was from a luxury hotel downtown. The romance package. 2 nights. I checked the date. The booking happened during a week when I had been attending a conference. When Marcus came home, I confronted him immediately. To this day, I still remember how calm he was. He smiled, reached for my hand, and explained that it was supposed to be a surprise honeymoon staycation after the wedding. He even described spa treatments and dinner reservations. Everything sounded believable. Every detail. So I believed him. Because trusting him was easier than imagining the truth. The night before the wedding, my friends organized a bachelorette dinner. 15 women. Too much food. Too much wine. Too many photos. Around 10 o'clock, Priya stood up and said she had a headache. She hugged me, told me she loved me, and left. An hour later, I left too. I wanted one quiet night before the wedding. I unlocked the apartment. The lights were off. Everything seemed normal. Then I opened the bedroom door, and my entire world collapsed. Marcus was in bed. Priya was beside him. Marcus looked terrified, but Priya looked relieved. As if she had been waiting for this moment. As if she was finally tired of pretending. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I simply turned around and left. I drove to my sister's house, sat in her driveway, and stared into space. Then my phone started vibrating. Message after message. From Priya. Not apologies. Confessions. She told me everything. She and Marcus had dated for 2 years before she introduced us. Not casually. Seriously. They had discussed marriage. The rooftop party wasn't random. She introduced us intentionally. She wanted to see if Marcus had truly moved on. He hadn't. They continued seeing each other behind my back throughout our entire relationship. Every business trip. Every late meeting. Every excuse. For 4 years, I wasn't part of a love story. I was part of an experiment. I spent 48 hours crying. 48 hours barely eating. 48 hours staring at the ceiling wondering how I had been fooled for so long. Then something changed. The sadness didn't disappear, but it became quieter. And when it became quiet, I started paying attention. I opened my laptop, pulled up every shared document Marcus had ever asked me to store. And that's when I found something that had nothing to do with cheating. Something much bigger. 2 years earlier, Marcus had asked me to sign paperwork connected to a business account. He called it a vendor account for a consulting project. I trusted him. So I signed. Without asking many questions. Now, while searching through old files, I found the account records. At first everything looked normal. Invoices. Bank transfers. Payment statements. Then I started reading carefully. Thousands of dollars were moving through a company I had never heard of. The company was called Horizon Consulting Group. On paper, it appeared legitimate. In reality, it was a shell company. Money was being routed through fake vendor invoices and redirected into accounts connected to Horizon Consulting Group. I checked the registration records. And my stomach dropped. There was only one listed director. Priya. Suddenly every piece of the puzzle fit together. The lies. The secrecy. The unexplained trips. Marcus and Priya weren't just hiding an affair. They were running a fraud scheme together. And somehow, my signature had been used as part of the paperwork. My heartbreak instantly became a legal problem. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. This was evidence. The next morning, I hired a lawyer. After reviewing the documents, she told me something terrifying. Because my name appeared on some of the paperwork, I could potentially be held responsible unless I acted immediately. So we acted. We gathered everything. Bank statements, invoices, company registrations, emails, transfer records, every document we could find. Then we sent a complete disclosure package to Marcus's employer and their legal department. Every piece of evidence, and we kept copies of everything. Next came the wedding. Every payment had come from my account. I was the sole client. I called the venue manager, cancelled everything. Because I had negotiated a flexible cancellation clause when signing the contract, I received a full refund. $11,400. Back in my account. After the wedding was cancelled, I focused on protecting myself. My lawyer advised me to separate every remaining financial connection I had with Marcus. I closed shared accounts, removed my name from anything connected to him, changed passwords, updated beneficiaries, cancelled automatic payments. Every loose end was tied off one by one. It wasn't dramatic. It was practical. For 4 years, Marcus had been a major part of my life. Now I was making sure he could never affect it again. And with every document I signed, every account I closed, and every connection I severed, I felt a little stronger. Not because I was getting revenge. Because I was getting free. 8 weeks later, Marcus was terminated while his employer investigated the fraud. The amount involved eventually exceeded $60,000. Priya resigned before she could be formally interviewed. The shell company was dissolved. And thanks to the disclosure my lawyer filed, I was cleared of any liability. People always ask if I miss them. The truth? No. Because once you discover that your entire relationship was built on lies, grief changes. Anger changes. Eventually, all that's left is clarity. Today, I live in a different apartment. 12th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows. The kind of city view I always wanted. The kind Marcus always said wasn't worth the extra money. Every morning, I look out at that skyline and remember something important. Sometimes losing people is actually gaining freedom. And sometimes the worst day of your life becomes the first day of a much better one.
And don't forget to like and subscribe.